Hi again. Here we are.
Hi. Um, yeah, I just think that seeing us and setting the tone of a conversation is an important step in this before the meeting starts, so that they can see that yeah, this is real life and this isn't something that um, is scripted.
Yeah.
We have an idea of what we want to say, but we're going to go with the flow. And as more people join, we will have the ability to interact with you several times during the course of the presentation or the discussion, conversation.
And conversations, yeah. And while we're waiting for more people to join, let's talk about how this conversation series was born.
Yes. One day, while we were having coffee, we began this wonderful conversation that we said, we turned to one another and said, yeah, it'd be great if people could hear the kind of conversations that we have about grief and how it might be able to help them.
Yeah, and so we thought, well, why not create a conversation series so that you can be not only hear our conversations, also be a part of our conversations, because a conversation is something that is rich.
So we were just talking, and as people are joining, we're going to open up the room. Conversations are important, and
as you join us, feel free to keep yourself off of
the video.
The video. I also ask that you mute yourself so that I'm still doing a little bit. We are recording, so we will be able to send this to everyone who participated and everyone who here we go. Everyone who has registered. So we will wait another minute or two before we get into the meat of the conversation. I want to welcome everyone that's here. Mm-hmm. And we were just saying that this conversation series was born out of a desire to share the kinds of conversations that we were having on a Sunday morning on our couch with our coffee. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if other people could witness these conversations and be a part of them? So that's how we got the idea to start this conversational series.
And so the importance of setting a tone, understanding that anything that we say, we hold in confidence. Our sharing is a heartfelt expression of who we are and what we've come through in our grief journey. And there'll be more about that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's introduce ourselves and we'll talk a little bit about our journey. I'm Nancy Leffler, and together with Dan, my husband, we have started Being with Grief out of the journey that we came through over 21 years ago when our daughter Leah died. And as we each traveled our grief journey in a different way, much different way. And through that journey and through those experiences, we came to understand that grief is a unique experience to each person, that we don't all grieve the same way, and that's fine. We each grieve in a way that makes sense to us.
And we're not really taught how to grieve.
We're not taught how to grieve, but that's something that's been coming up a lot this past week. One of the things that, one of the reasons that we hadn't been around much in the past couple of weeks is because we experienced the death of a loved one in our family, one of our family members, and that put us in the role of supporting them, and it took up all the bandwidth for the last few weeks.
And brought us right back to our own grief story and reflections now on 20 years of working through our personal efforts at healing and understanding what grief is and how it affects us, brings us, again to our conversations.
And that's always a great place to start. What is grief? We hear about it all the time. What is it?
Well, the grief recovery method defines it as anytime there's a change in a regular pattern of behavior, there's an associated feeling that you get as you're missing what was and have the unexpected confronting you in an unknown future. Because everything has changed. Yeah.
Right.
And, there's no, what we like to say is there's no, or the old normal is gone. And,
Right.
And we have to adjust to a new normal.
Yeah. And so grief arises, yes, when we experience the death of a loved one, but also many different times during our lives. The loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, when our health changes,
Loss of a job.
loss of a job,
And the
loss of a dream,
a divorce.
a divorce, and the losses that we've experienced during the last couple of years of the pandemic. There's so many losses that have compounded other losses that we may have experienced. So grief does come into our lives when a loved one dies. And for me, that's when Leah died, that's when all the other griefs that had been suppressing, pushing away, not wanting to deal with, they came rushing back into my life, because it rips open your life. It ripped open my life, and it said, okay, me, pay some attention to me.
And when that happened, you often describe that as breaking open your heart.
Right.
And the work that we do is essentially heart-centered.
Yeah, it's heart-centered. Some of the resources, though, that we use in our work, and we'll be going into the purpose for today's video is to introduce you to our monthly webinar series, and each month we will be going in depth into one or two related topics. So one of the things that I'll be talking about are some of the resources that I use in my own work. One of those is a heart-centered practice called samyama, and it helps us to be in our hearts. It really helps us to get better at feeling our feelings. And you want to talk about that a little bit? How good were you at feeling your feelings?
I just started writing in our blog about something that happened to me this week. I was working on a home remodeling project, and I needed a high-speed drill bit, and I knew that they were in the storage closet, so I went down there and I picked it up, and I realized that when I inherited the tools from my father when he died, he had taken an old ammo box and had dumped a bunch of drills inside it. The ammo box has become for me a way, or a place, a representation of a place that I stuffed all my feelings. And as an ammo box, if you're not taking care of it, there's a good chance that thing's going to explode. And basically, that's where I found myself. After Leah died, the stuffing of all those emotions and feelings that I had into that ammo box just felt like it was going to explode. I didn't take care of it.
That's a great metaphor. Interesting that it came into your awareness this week, especially with everything we're dealing with, the death of a family member and everything that they're going through. And now having to support them, or needing to support them in a way that we hadn't last week. The other thing with that is it brought to mind the importance of having conversations with those that are in our lives now. Grief, I realized that grieving, the act of grieving, what about the art of grieving? Yeah. The art of grieving can help us to get better with the art of living our lives now, because we need to talk to our family members that are part of our lives now, and let them know the things that are on our heart. Let them know that we love them, and have those conversations so that we can be present to each other now.
And that's really one of the tools, if you can preempt the devastation and fragileness that you have once you have experienced grief, by having a conversation ahead of time. What are your wishes for us? Having these conversations, digs deeply into. And the other image I like to use is, okay, inside that ammo box was a bunch of drills. What is that telling me? Because we're drilling down into the emotions, and some of those things are, little tiny drill bits. But some of them were, half-inch, bore that really gets down, into the meat of something. If you're talking about, your heart, what would a half-inch slug do to you? Again, ammo imagery. I don't want to, do that, but especially with all the news that's going on.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to say is that having these conversations and cultivating some of the skills that we talk about isn't going to make the loss of a loved one or grief that comes into your life easier. It will give you a place to start. You will have a toolbox, or I like to say I have my medicine bag full of resources that you can draw on when you experience grief. So each month we're going to be having a different topic, and we have a whole list of topics. However, we do have the first 3 months decided,
kind of outlined.
Outlined. And so the webinar series will begin on March 8th. It will be the second Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. Central Time. We will record every webinar so that you will have access to it on a platform that we have designed for it. So on the first meeting, we'll be talking about getting unstuck from grief, and then the different types of grief. I touched a little bit about the different types of grief, but another thing I want to bring up is the disguises that grief wears, as well as unrecognized grief and the cost of that.
Okay. Yeah, disguises. That's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Well, if for yourself, think about a disguise that you took on early in your grief journey.
I'm not quite sure where you're headed.
I'm thinking of things like anger or keeping busy. They can be called myths of grief too. But disguises of grief it gives it a little different connotation because it's another way to uh, put a layer. Like, for instance, if you're putting a mask of busyness on.
Right. Okay. Yeah. A mask of business is a great image to use, because if we are constantly spinning that plate in the air, then the feelings that we have, and especially as a guy, as a matter of fact, while you were saying disguise, the thing that came to my mind is, hey, these guys, what did these guys do? And that's no Chicago thing, but never mind. I like to say that men have five basic emotions, and I go more into this in some of the things that I've written, and some of the things that I'd like to do in terms of men's grief. But five basic emotions: the sad, glad, mad, fear, and shame. And with that, you can go into how men deal with grief, and the disguises then fit in with, we like to be strong because that's what we're trained to do. We like to grieve alone. We don't want anybody to see our weaknesses and our vulnerability. And that's one of the things that we've come across in our life's journey, is how closed we are to expressing a lot of these feelings.
Yeah.
And
I
mask them, disguise them.
Yeah. I also want to say that what Dan said, the way that men grieve, everyone is prone to all aspects of grief. It's not, you're right, in your experience. And also, so it's, what you said is true, and everyone can have those tendencies.
Right.
So on the second week, or second month rather, in April, we're going to be talking about how we all grieve in our own way and honoring our own grief process. So Dan and I each approach grief in a completely different way. We talked a little bit about how he shoved down his feelings and didn't want to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with them either, because I wasn't taught to grieve, and it was we don't like to feel our uncomfortable feelings. And I received a message that was so powerful that that message is that losing Leah is too high a price to pay to not live the life I was meant to live. And when I received that message, I felt like it was a soul message from her. When I received that message, I wanted to dive right into it, even though it wasn't comfortable. So I had my own Samyama practitioner at the time, and that's how I began to process my grief. I dove into the feelings right away.
And explain what Samyama is and how that relates to the heart center test.
Samyama is a present moment awareness that teaches us how to, first of all, bring awareness into our hearts, and then bring our feelings, one feeling at a time, rather than the overwhelming onslaught of feelings that we experience during grief or other times. Bring them one at a time into our hearts, and eventually learn how to allow our hearts to hold those feelings and transmute them. And I began using this process for myself with my own Samyama practitioner, and I was meeting my grief in a profound way. And when I saw how profound it was, I became certified as a practitioner back in 2009. So I've been doing this practice, for over 25 years now, and on a daily basis after I began using it to process my grief. So it continues to reveal its nuances and basically helps us get better at feeling all of our feelings.
Yeah. Say that again.
It helps us to get better at feeling all of our feelings. We were having this conversation earlier this week about how we hear so much about positive and being positive, and positivity will help you to get through the negativity, and
Overcome any obstacle.
and positive and negative thoughts happen in our heads. And I'm inviting you to bring feelings into your heart. And feelings are not positive or negative or good or bad. They are simply energy. So I'd like to talk about them as comfortable and uncomfortable. There's a wide variety of feelings. And if we're not feeling the painful and uncomfortable feelings over on, here's my hand, on this side, we're not going to be able to feel the joy and the happiness on this side. So it helps us to feel the full spectrum of our feelings. And I discovered that we can feel pain and joy at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive.
Great. And honoring that presence, as
Right.
you said, you kind of really got into how you or why you do the work that you do, and a little bit about the how. And the other piece of that is that not only do we all grieve in our own way, but we have to honor where we've been. And, one of the things we were talking about is our awareness of grief, and how when we're grieving, it's not our head that's broken, it's our heart that is broken. And mending a heart and being aware of where that is, we know where it is, but where you are within it begins to gave me the chance to feel the nuance. Again, if I'm working on 5 basic emotions, then I hope to think that now I've come to know other aspects of those 5 basic ones.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about it, you said 5 basic emotions, reminded me of the 5 basic or the aspects, and I call them aspects of the stages of grief. I call them aspects because stages seems like they're progressive, and my experience is that they're not. They're chaotic and not linear, and they come and they go, and there's more than 7 or 5 or whatever it is. And it's knowing that the stages of grief. I used to think that, okay, the stages of grief are linear, and I would finish one stage and I would wrap it up in a nice package, it would be done, and then I would move on to the next one. And anyone who's been in grief knows that is not what happens. It's very chaotic and it's messy, and it comes and goes, and sometimes all in the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way to honor your grief process, to know that that's normal. Another thing that's normal that I don't always think about, because it's something that happens in early grief, particularly other physical manifestations of grief. No one told me about that. A person in our family told me that her heart felt like it was completely broken. Her heart hurt. Yeah, there are physical manifestations of grief. I never thought I was a spacey person until after Leah died. And then I would just space off and stare into the ethers for hours. And I thought I was going to be like that for the rest of my life. So that brings us to the main topics, which are going to be grief as transformation and additional resources that we can offer you. My own grief journey has been such a journey of transformation. It's transformation is a very near and dear topic to my heart, because I was able to go back and heal on a much more deep level the wounds of my childhood. I found my voice. I reclaimed my voice. I grew up as a severe stutterer, and I wouldn't just not talk to crowds or to people. I wouldn't talk, because it was such shame that came with that.
And it would have been inconceivable for you to have be here holding a Zoom meeting with when we first met back in high school. I mean, that's how long and how deep our relationship and commitment to one another has been.
Yeah.
That you would have even considered this at one point in your life.
Right. There was no way that I would have written a book to put my vulnerable story out there for people to read, and then talk about it. And now one of my great passions is sharing my story so that I can reach others and show them what's possible. It's sometimes I don't have words for it because I feel the enormity of the way that my life has changed. And I'm just so grateful that I said yes to my grief journey.
I think this is a good spot for us to kind of change gears a little bit.
Mhm.
And the two things come to mind. I could talk, about what I do and how I do it because I have a different approach. Men and women grieve differently. I'll just leave it there. That could be a topic for another day. But there may be questions that people have.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about let's call it ground rules. Everybody understands that. Anything that you say is held in confidence. It's not to be shared. The whole idea of what we're doing is trying to create a safe space where questions can come up, where we can assist in the process, where we can talk about the things that have happened in our lives and feel that it's safe. Although we share our story as a way of promoting this educational grief series.
Yeah. And let me talk a little bit about that. And then if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or after I share with you how you can join us for this webinar, you can either put questions in the chat or raise your hand, unmute yourself and ask it. This is going to be, as you said, a monthly series. It's going to be a membership site. It'll be on a membership website. The first 3 months, which you've already heard the topics, we are offering for $45. And when we first did our first informational webinar, we had that special price good until the end of February. And now we're going to extend it until the webinar actually starts on March 8th. So it'll be $45 for the first 3 months until March 8th. And with that, you will also be invited into a private Facebook group. And when I say private, it's private so that no one can find it either. So that we won't have people able to come in and comment on our sacred conversations, because I do feel that this work is sacred. So that will be the safe space that we are creating. The webinars will be available to you on the website, on the membership website, for as long as you are a member. After the first 3 months, it's $200 for every 6 months. So that's still a great value, because these conversations will be there for you whenever you need to go back and refer to them. And in the Facebook group, when we will be doing, we'll probably hold regular office hours. We will answer questions, but we'll also be popping in from time to time and doing Facebook Lives. When we move to talk about something, we'll be asking questions. We'll be encouraging you to ask questions. Or if you need to just witness or just watch for a while, because we recognize that until you're ready to talk about it, you're not ready. Or let me put it another way. You're not ready until you are ready. And so we invite you into this container, into our community. And that's basically how it's going to work. So if you have any questions, we would love to answer them.
Yeah, and let's face it, there's so much need in the world for conversations just to establish, your bearings, and the idea of creating a community. We've recently joined the St. Paul community here, and we're finding great ways of connecting and a spirit and a content of the city that is really pretty amazing in terms of community interaction.
Yeah.
And that's what we hope to create, promote, and establish. And Nancy mentioned sacred space. Yes, we may have lit a candle before this, but this isn't any kind of denominational agenda or promotion. We are respectful of all races, religions,
Right.
ethnic backgrounds, and again, the idea is that
everyone is welcome. We want to serve you. We've seen the value of having conversations in our own work, with each other, in our families, and with our friends. And we want to bring that to a community, to our community.
And how it heals, through our words. Words can hurt, words can heal.
So often, I used to think that if I healed, it meant I was going to forget Rita. And I hear that, I hear that often in my own conversations. And I found out that the opposite is true. I actually am closer with her now than she was 17. We had mighty royal battles, and one of my biggest lessons was learning how to separate what was normal and what was not after she died. So we've each been on, and when I think about the enormity of our journey and where we started and where we are now, I'm like, as I said, I'm so grateful that we each said yes in our own ways, because this might be a good place to end. The reason that we moved to St. Paul was to be a part of our first granddaughter's everyday life. And we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. They lived in Minneapolis. And when our son told us that we were going to be grandparents, we were so happy. And after we met her, there was no way that we could have conceived of not being a part of her everyday life. So we moved. We made a big move from Raleigh to St. Paul. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that with as much ease as it happened, with so much ease. Within 3 months, our house was sold and we were in our condo, less than 3 months. And so I look upon that as one of the huge blessings of our group journey, that we can participate in our lives in the way that we do, and fully.
Right, which if you're holding on to the hurt and pain of your grief, you have to come to a place where you realize it's not serving you.
It's getting you stuck.
Yeah, that's another topic. So if there are any topics that you have, again, we'd love to entertain, talk about it. We have over 40 topics.
We have over 40 topics, and we also will be bringing guest people on to interview people that we've met along the way, people that we want to know, that have their own beautiful viewpoints that we think is beneficial.
Yeah, things you need to know along the path, because sudden loss can really throw you, and you don't know all the steps that are involved. And that's another aspect that we'd like to talk about, the practicalities.
Yeah.
There's no guidebook. Maybe we're creating one as we do this, but
it's the art of breathing.
The art of breathing. I like that. Yeah.
If you have any topics that you would like to hear, please put them in the chat or put them in the comments if you happen to be watching this on YouTube or Facebook. If you are watching this on a replay, because we will be sending this to all the registrants, please let us know. We will also send you a link on how you can join us for the upcoming webinar. It'll give you all the details on how to join, how to pay, and all that stuff.
And again, just the payment issue is important because there's value in what we're presenting, and our thought is that we can't give it away, but we're not in this for the money.
Well, it also, the money supports the website. That is going to make it easy for the everything to be in one place.
Right. And
the other thing we're going to be doing in that portal is pulling together other resources that we have, YouTubes that we've done, blogs that we've done that are available other places, but we'll be putting them all in just one place to make it convenient. So that is what we have for you today. We thank you for joining us in person or on the replay. And we look forward to seeing many of you next month.
And if you're looking for more information, you can reach us at either Dan at beingwithgrief.com or Nancy at beingwithgrief.com.
Yes, if you would like to jump on a call and ask some questions, we are open to doing that. Yeah. So again,
we understand privacy and the confidentiality issue.
Yeah, Dan at beingwithgrief.com, Nancy at beingwithgrief.com, and our website is beingwithgrief.com. If you want to see some more, read the blog that Dan referred to, and there's a lot of stuff on our website. So thank you again for being here. We hope to see you soon.